Nora Speaks is a weekly podcast that tugs at the soul and consciousness of the Black community. With show topics such as youth empowerment, education, women's impact, and civic engagement, Nora Speaks challenges the listener to not only join the movement, but be the movement. On the show, you'll learn from insightful guests who have demonstrated capacity in these fields and more, and I'm your host, Nora Muhammad. Welcome to the show. Welcome to episode 183 of the Nora Speaks podcast, and I am your host and your sister, Nora Muhammad. Thanks for joining me for another episode of the podcast, and I hope that as you have been listening to the Nora Speaks podcast, whether you're just one or two episodes in, or if you are a long time listener and you've been with me from the beginning, I'm so grateful to you. I'm grateful for you. And I always encourage you to share Nora Speaks with your family, with your friends, with those who are leading youth organizations, women's organizations, anyone who is doing some kind of empowering work in our community. I encourage you to share this with them so that this podcast and the ideas that have been shared in this podcast can be a contribution to their activities and to their inner dialogues. I also encourage you to leave a rating or a review on a good deal of the podcast episode apps. You have the opportunity to comment or leave a rating, and I'm always interested in your thoughts. I'm interested in how the audience is receiving this. And I'm grateful to those who have left me feedback, and whether that's through an email by submitting an email to nora@noraspeaks.com, or if you are messaging me on Instagram or on Facebook and you are leaving messages in the inbox. I'm grateful to your feedback. My goal with this podcast is that it can edify our community. It can contribute, as I said, to the conversations, to the ideas that we are using and implementing to develop strategies to improve our community. And I believe that Nora Speaks is an important contributor. I believe that what you hear on the podcast is informative, and in some ways is probably a lot different than that which you may hear from other platforms. And, this is a project that I have taken on so that I can use what I've learned, so that I can contribute to my community, so that I can have a vehicle to amplify messages that some or many may hear me share locally to a broader audience. And I just want to provide a competing message, if you will, to the common or the typical messages that are shared, particularly as it relates to Black women, Black girls, our confidence, self-esteem, our public-facing portrayal. I want to share ideas and thoughts that may not be generally accepted, that may not be generally espoused, but that which I think is meaningful. So I'm grateful again that you have joined me in this episode. And if you are not a subscriber to Nora Speaks, I do encourage you to subscribe. So I thought long and hard before recording this episode. And when I say I thought long and hard, it's been many weeks, many months actually, before I actually hit record for this episode. And this is a conversation about Black feminism. And, what I love with our people is the desire to want to make a difference, the desire to want to be actively engaged in change, the desire to seek equity, the desire to seek freedom, justice, and equality. I think that is just natural in us. It's an inherent quality that when there is injustice, that our nature, our nature is fighting for justice. Think about the pain that we feel when we're wearing shoes that are too small, right? That pain is because our body, our foot, our toes, that pain is the body's cry for justice. I need shoes that fit. These are too small. So I love that about us, and we engage in justice work, if you will, in so many different ways. And some in our community engage in that work through what is called Black Feminism. And in my research and study of Black feminism, I've come across some things that I just find concerning. Some speakers that I find concerning, some proponents within the Black feminist movement, and some ideas that I find within the Black feminist movement concerning. And I know that the Black feminist movement has been criticized and has been dismissed. Some accuse those within the Black feminist movement as being tools of white supremacy. And that's not necessarily the perspective that I want to lead with in this conversation. What I want to talk about is the general condition of the Black community and my concern with us splintering in all kinds of ways, but specifically splintering into a Black feminist movement. Now, I think one of the things that, or something that I heard several months ago that really motivated me to kind of look into this and think about recording an episode about it. And this may not even be the last episode that I record. I may even have a guest or two to talk about this. But I heard a sister say once, who represents herself as a Black feminist, she said that Black men are jealous of the white man's patriarchy. And she was saying that Black men covet the spoils of white male dominance, white supremacy, and the injustice. And so this Black woman was saying that, the end of white supremacy and white male dominance is suppression, is oppression. And I do not think that Black men are interested in oppression. I think Black men are interested in ending oppression, or are interested in lifting oppression up off of them. I think Black men are interested in having the opportunity to be themselves. I do not think that, and of course we're speaking in generalizations here, I do not think that Black men are striving to be oppressive. And so the reason why I say I want to talk about our people and the condition of our people, because I think it will definitely inform the conversation and inform the perspective that I have that may be different from yours. And at the end of this episode, you may disagree with me, and that's fine. I want us to just think about things a little bit differently. And if you do differ, and if you object to some or much of what I say, I really would be interested in you sharing your feedback with me. I am someone who is studying life. I imagine someone listening to this episode is also a student of life, and you're striving to make the best impact and to walk the course that will be the one to get us to freedom, justice, and equality. If you're a subscriber and frequent listener of this podcast. So just so that we can start off with definition, I'm going to share, and the reason why it's important to start off with definition is so that we have an understanding, so that you as the audience will understand the foundation of what I'm saying, and so that we, I think starting with definition gives us the opportunity to have the least amount of confusion, or for you to be most sure about what I'm talking about when I reference patriarchy and Black feminism. So the definition that I'll share with you of patriarchy is this: a social structure that is dominated by males, men, and a social structure in which power and privilege is held by men. And in this structure, women have limited participation, which creates gender inequities between male and female, woman and man. So that's the patriarchy, or the definition of patriarchy, that I'm using, and I'm laying that as a foundation. And in terms of what I mean when I reference Black feminism, in all fairness, because I want to be as accurate as possible, I was looking for a definition of Black feminism. And in some instances, I came across language that said that Black feminism really cannot just be defined as 1, 2, 3, or 4 different things. Black feminism can, a lot of things can fall under Black feminism. Black feminism is a large tent. So for the purpose of this discussion, I'm going to share with you what I mean when I'm talking about Black feminism. So this is some of what I've come across in terms of giving Black feminism a definition as I lay a foundation for this conversation in this episode. Black feminism centers the experiences of Black women understanding their position in relation to racism, sexism, classism, as well as other social and political identities. In understanding Black feminism and explaining Black feminism is also defined as the idea that Black women have been excluded from mainstream feminism because of their race, while simultaneously being excluded from Black liberation movements because of their gender. Black feminism highlights and engages with the many aspects of identity that women have, which has significance because it gives them the opportunity to discuss being Black while also discussing gender inequities. And I'll just conclude with this as I'm talking about trying to give definition to Black feminism. Black feminist theory contends that Black women have an acute understanding of the negative impacts of sexism, racism, and class discrimination. And so I just wanted to give those definitions to lay a foundation so that we have understanding as I move forward through this episode and what I share in this episode. So let me just take you back. I remember when I was maybe 14 or 15, and I came across Sojourner Truth. I may have been doing writing an essay in high school or something like that. And I came across Sojourner Truth, and the address that she gave, I don't remember where, but I believe it was in the late 1800s. And Sojourner Truth gave a talk that's titled, "Ain't I a Woman?" And in that talk, and you can research, you can Google that speech that she gave. It's not too long. She's talking about being Black and the discrimination and the injustice that she experiences because she's Black. And she also talks about being a woman and how women have been treated unjustly and unfairly. And Sojourner Truth she is someone that is often referenced when there's a discussion about women's suffrage and feminism and Black feminism. So I remember being young, being a teenager, and kind of looking at life a bit more broadly than I did, obviously, in elementary school. And I was kind of coming into a bit of consciousness. And so I was really thinking about, wait, this experience that Black women have is something that's unique. Not only do women and females in this nation specifically have the unfortunate reality of gender inequities, discrimination because of women, because of being a woman, I'll say, but that Black women also have the unfortunate experiences of discrimination because of being Black. And I just thought, wow, now that's unique. Something I hadn't thought about. Growing up, I recognized the challenges that Black people have and how unfair that Black people were treated. I was Black, and I recognized, at least with my limited knowledge and world experience, that Black people certainly not only experienced discrimination in the past, learned a little bit about slavery, learned something about Jim Crow, learned, the civil rights movement, and obviously learned about Dr. King and what he was laboring for. So I got that Black people had some really awful experiences at the hands of white slave masters, and then after slavery, white lawmakers, their white neighbors. And it was frustrating. It was frustrating to know that not only were those experiences historical, but they were still currently taking place, and that Black people still were being treated unfairly. That was very, very frustrating. And then when I came across Sojourner Truth, I thought, okay, yes, that is true, that not only do Black women experience racism, but there's also sexism. And I started thinking about all the ways that Black women and Black women have to confront those kinds of inequities. And I thought, okay, double jeopardy. And I remember I wrote an essay in high school about double jeopardy. And so then I thought, well, okay, so I have two identities. I'm Black and I'm a woman. And so now fast forward, I've experienced a little bit more in life, and I've learned quite a bit more. And in looking into Black feminism and listening to them and listening to their narrative and what they're saying is true about the unique perspective of the experiences that Black women have. And I do not discount that. What I do challenge and what I do push back on, again, as I go back to how I opened with hearing a Black feminist say that Black men covet the spoils of their supremacy. I disagree with that. I disagree that Black men have that same desire. I think that Black men want to be treated with dignity and respect. And what I also know is that just like Black women have experienced slavery, subjugation, humiliation, degradation, all of that, just like Black women have experienced that, so have Black men. And when I think about Black people in general, descendants of slaves, of which we number, when I think about the experience of slavery, and I'm sure I've talked about this previously in this podcast, that Black people, or I'll say those Africans that we were before we came to this continent, we were something, and when we got here, we were made into something different. Recently, I gave a talk, and I likened our experience in America to a newborn baby, wherein when you have an infant and you're raising that child is going to be whatever the parents mold that child to be. That child will speak the language that the parents teach it. That child will have the diet that the parents give it. That child will have the education, the training that those who are responsible for provide. That child is going to be molded and is going to be an amalgamation of all of that is given to that child. That's what happened with Black people in America. We became less, or I'll say nothing of what we once were when we originally came to the shores of North America. All of that was stripped from us. We were no longer able to speak the language. Our dietary habits and norms were taken from us. The way that we orchestrated our social interactions, family, marriage, all of that was taken away from us. Our names were taken away from us. I mean, we became a new people, and all that we knew was what our enslaver taught us, trained us to be. So we are not and were not who we once were. We're something brand new here. And so the language that we speak, that's the language of our enslavers. The diet that we have is the diet given to us by our captors. Our social interaction, our political interaction, our economic habits, all of that which we have has been given to us by our former slave masters. And so we operate, right? Our application mirrors the training that we had as a slave. And so the reason why I say I think it's important for us to kind of take a step back and review how we got to be here and how we got to be who we are, because I think to a great extent, Black women and Black men, we are unfair to each other. And obviously, the state that we find ourselves in currently, no matter how educated a Black woman is, no matter how wealthy a Black man is in America, we are still operating in the capacity as former slaves. And the fact that we did not free ourselves, in fact, we were freed by our former slave master. And I'll say so-called free, we were emancipated. You know, someone else gave us the permission by their law for us to be an independent people. Now, even as we were, quote, emancipated, we still did not become an independent people, because we are still here carrying the names of our former slave master, speaking their languages, implementing their customs into our daily lives. So we are still that which the slave master made us to be. We are not what we were when we came, when we encountered John Brown, when John Brown encountered us in our original land. We are not those people. We are not the people that came across on the slave ship. We are not those people. As free as we may think that we are, or as our experiences are, where you can buy a house, you can buy a car, you can get a job. Some of us can, right? All of the way that we engage in society still is not reflective of what we once are. It is reflective of what we were made to be, because we have not been retrained into what we once were. That experience has not happened. So how we function with ourselves still remains to be remnants and evidence of our enslavement. And so when Black women criticize Black men, when Black men criticize Black women, we are dysfunctional. we are hurtful to each other, because let's be very, very clear. Our slave master did not train us in such a way so that we could have independence, so that we could have dominance, so that we could enjoy a black supremacy, so that we can have independence of thought. I mean, they didn't even say, well, look, we know we treated you so poorly. We're going to give you a portion of this country because you built this country for us, because we robbed you of your name, your religion, your culture, your families, your lives, because we treated you so unjustly. The effort that we're going to use to make you whole, or to show our to show our culpability in the condition that you find yourselves in, we're going to give you a separate state or territory so that you can decide how you all, as a group of black people, as ex-slaves, how you all are going to govern and operate with yourselves as a collective. That did not happen. They didn't say, we're going to give you this territory. We're going to invite your people to come and remind you of who you are. That did not happen. When we were emancipated, a good deal of us said, well, we don't know what else to do. We've always only been slaves. Well, we're going to go into sharecropping, which is slavery still by another name. They made being black criminal through their black codes and black laws. So for us to be in 2022, not too far out of 2021, and we're still watching black people be lynched in the streets by state actors. We're off of the plantation picking cotton for free, but a great deal of our experiences still show that we're still in the dynamic of being an oppressed people. We have not been made whole. That has not occurred. And so all that we have is what our slave master has given us. And these are the habits, these are the practices. This is how we operate with each other. It happens politically, it happens religiously, it happens economically, right? I appreciate black people really interested in developing our own businesses. Entrepreneurship is really up right now, which is really good. But I say that's great, but we can't come at each other with the same capitalistic mindset that keeps people oppressed. We can't utilize that same format. We need a new format. So back to Black feminism. I recognized in high school that we had, as black women, a very unique experience. And I saw, okay, so black men were oppressed through slavery and then all the things that came after that through discrimination. However, the patriarchy of white men, the dominance of white men, the supremacy of white men, even was unkind to their women and unkind to us as black women. But what I learned when I got older is that it was not useful for me to separate myself from black men, because I had to recognize and realize that the damage and the hurt and the pain that was enjoined upon black women was also enjoined upon black men. And I think also that we as women, black women, we were not taught the nature of men. We were not taught the natural inherent qualities of men. And so the education and the ideas that we as black women have also have come from our trainer, our teacher, our former slave master. And so I don't think that we recognize or appreciate the natural inclination that Black men have to provide and to protect, to lead and to love. I don't think we always recognize that as a natural inherent quality because we have not seen it in over 400 years. So let's go back. Let's go back to the slave ship. Let's go back to the plantation where there was a Black man that saw a Black woman be whipped, be mistreated, be abused. And when that Black man jumped up to defend and protect that Black woman, he was shot down, he was lynched, he was burned, he was thrown overboard. Black men were trained not to protect Black women. That was their training, something that was reflexive that they would do, something that was natural that they would do. When something comes in our face, we blink, right? That's reflexive. We don't make a decision to blink. It happens reflexively. It is reflexive. It is natural that a Black man protects his woman. That is natural because that's love. That inclination was so broken in the Black man to the point where Black men were the ones with the whip on the plantation. Black men would have to stand around and watch a Black woman be whipped, be lynched. They destroyed that component in the Black man. I remember, and you may remember this may have been a couple years ago, there was a video that was going around of an incident that occurred at a McDonald's. And this Black girl, she was being harassed by this white customer. And I think the guy must have hit her. And that Black girl went off on that white guy and slapped him up, beat him up. And next to her stood a young Black man who did nothing. He did not intervene. And so, boy, did they come after that young man. And they laid into him because he didn't do anything to protect the Black woman. Where does that come from? That's not natural. That's not normal. But it happens now. And so the natural inclination of our brothers have been destroyed. I mean, through social conditioning, you can cause all kinds of things to happen. You can cause all kinds of responses through social conditioning. And so that's what we see. We have been conditioned. We have been made into something new. But I will say that it is natural that Black men lead, that Black men guide, that Black men love, that Black men protect his woman. That's natural. And so when we see our men wanting to lead, wanting to guide, wanting to be in leadership, then for some of us, it is very triggering because we reflect on the injustice that has been a part of American society. And we say, no, nobody's going to control me. Nobody's going to tell me what to do. No man's going to lead me. These kinds of things become reflexive of us. Because we're triggered. I'll say that we are triggered by the injustice that we have experienced under white male dominance, white male injustice. And if we see Black men being unjust, we have to reflect back to how they were trained. We have to think back to where are they patterning their leadership after? Who are they patterning their leadership after? Again, whether we're talking about religious, political, educational, in any kind of social aspect, who are Black men patterning themselves after? Who has been their teacher, right? The same thing for Black women. When Black men are criticizing Black women for the ways in which we err, and sister, I will tell you that just like black men err, yes, we too err, then we have to reflect back to who made us into what we are. Because we are not that black woman that was put on that slave ship. We have been made into a different social creature. And so the way in which we engage in society, the way in which we engage politically, the way in which we engage economically, the way in which we engage with our men, who has been our teacher, and what are we patterning ourselves after if we have not had a new teacher? So sometimes I think at best we are dysfunctional. At worst, we are destructive with each other. Black men to black women to black men, black women to black children, black men to black children. We are at worst destructive, at best dysfunctional. So we need a retraining generally. And so, as I said, this is not to come after Black feminism. My concern, though, is that through divisions, we can prolong our oppression. We all need a retraining. We all need a rehabilitation. We cannot carry the patterns that we learned from the plantation into a functional and an independent and a successful engagement with one another. But for a good deal of us, we don't want independence as much as we want inclusion. And we have seen they've shown us so well that it is very difficult to get inclusion. It is very difficult to get inclusion. And if we do get it, it comes to us at a great moral sacrifice. We pay a great moral price, the same way we paid a great price with integration. Our communities are not the same. Our economic strength is not the same. We paid a penalty and we continue to pay a penalty. So I say that we have to look for more than just inclusion. We have to look for something better than integration. And the success that we're going to have, black men and black women, black family, black community, it is not going to come to us if we pattern ourselves after those who enslaved us, those who trained us to be submissive slaves, those who trained us and cultivated our habits so that it could perpetuate their success, their dominance, and their society. We both need to be made into something new. So I say that all black division is a tool of oppression. And I reflect back to the Black Lives Matter movement, or I believe that it was called the Summer of Resistance, when our people were out marching and protesting about the George Floyd murder, the Breonna Taylor murder, the Atiana Jefferson murder. And we can go down the line with Philando Castile and Eric Garner. And our people were protesting, and our people were carrying signs that said Black Lives Matter. And we had one narrative until it shifted. And it shifted into Black trans lives matter. And I thought, well, wait a minute. Sure, Black people who were trans had been killed, and some awful things were happening. But don't Black trans fall under Black lives? Because if the person is Black, then whether they're trans, whether they say that they're queer, whether they say that they're tall, whether they say that they're short, that they're still Black. And we all fall under that umbrella. But to segment us off, to piece our way down, then I thought, well, aren't we kind of losing steam? Aren't we losing effort if we're going to segment our demographic down? right? So somebody's a black social worker. We have a black psychologist. We have a black attorney. We have a black doctor. We have a black custodian. We have black teachers. We don't need to segment ourselves off, because when we segment ourselves off, we create more and more divisions, which helps prolong our oppression. So that's what I mean when I talk about black feminism. Now, I'm not saying that, sister or brother, in some cases, you shouldn't be a black feminist. But what I am saying is that we should take a look at our teaching, our training, our education, and understand that the injustice that we may experience with each other is a manifestation of the injustice that was done to us and the lack of training that we had. It's something that it's something to be operating in a way that's not natural to us. And if you watch nature shows, you'll see animals being raised by animals that are not the same. And, you've seen goats being, with horses, and, ducks with kittens. We've seen all kinds of things where one species was being raised and nurtured by a species that it didn't belong to. And when that happens, that creature cannot operate or function as well and as peacefully as it would had it been trained, nurtured by one from its own species. Now, I'm not saying that white men and white women who are our former enslavers are a different species. What I say is the nature in which they've groomed us in this country is different than our own. And that's evident by the lack of success that we have and the deconditioning and the destruction that we see within our communities. So I'm not saying, sister, brother, don't be a black feminist. I'm saying consider the totality of our experiences, and that it can be harmful to continue segmenting ourselves off. When I think about in my research how in the 60s and 70s black feminism really got rolling strong, and obviously that's not the beginning of black feminism or feminism, but in the 60s and 70s, when black women felt disenfranchised during the Black liberation movement. And obviously that's not a time that I experienced myself, but in reflecting on the research and the writings that have been made available to us, where black women did not feel that they had equal participation and recognition in the liberation of black people. I reflect back to the natural inclination of black men to guide, to lead, to protect, to elevate his woman. And if we all are fighting the white patriarchy, right? Patriarchy refers to male, right? Male domination. It is not natural for a man to watch his woman fight another man. That's not natural. That's not natural. Now, sister, I'm not saying that you can't do it. I'm not saying that you can't engage politically, socially. I'm not saying that, sister, you don't have the capacity to engage in social change. What I'm saying is that it is not natural for a black man to watch a black woman on the front lines. And then beyond that, black men have not been in control of our economic opportunities, our children's educational attainments. agriculture and the food that we eat, housing, us as a family, Black men remain dependent on white men even to this day. So they're not in control of their own employment opportunities, economic opportunities, children's education. Black men aren't feeding themselves from farms that they own, that they've cultivated. Black men are not educating their own children. Black men are not providing housing in their community. Now I'm talking generally. I'm making a big generalization because I see us as a unit. I see us as a nation of people within another nation that's still being subject to that nation. And so Black men aren't in control of their own opportunities. And so I think that we not need put the bullseye on them as the ones to get out of our way. And in some respects, and with many Black feminists, I have heard them put the bullseye on the back of a Black man as being the problem. Well, I know that Black men and Black women are a problem to each other. And that is reflective of something broader than us. And I think that we have to fix that. And if we identify that and work on that, then we can find greater harmony with each other, and we can harness the strengths and the talents and the gifts from one another to continue in this fight for freedom, justice, and equality. And so I believe that our fight, our movement should be together. A woman doesn't have a child by herself. A man does not have a child by himself. And this is about us as a whole. And as a whole, that's the woman, that's the man, and that's the child. And so our movement is a movement that belongs to all of us. And I believe that we will achieve a greater and quicker success if we are moving together, recognizing that we have some stuff that we have to divest ourselves of because it's remnant of a time when we were being trained to be slaves. It is a remnant of a time that was for the purpose of white dominance and white supremacy, and that we cannot take the practices of white dominance and white supremacy into a future where we want to experience freedom, justice, and equality. The men can't bring it. The sisters can't bring it. We have to bring something new. We have to learn and relearn together. We have to give each other grace, be patient with each other, keep moving forward, but we have to give each other grace. It's not fair to blame the poisoning victim, right, for his symptoms. I don't think that's fair. I don't think it's fair, whether it's the brother or whether it's the sister. We have been made into a sick people. Look, that's evidence. You may disagree, but that's evidence in what we see in our communities. I mean, look at our biggest and most promoted entertainers. They're not saying positive things to each other. The language is destructive. The behavior that they're promoting is destructive. We have been made into a sick people, and too few of us are saying ouch. Too few of us. So we have to relearn. We need a retraining. And once again, I say that segmenting ourselves off is not going to be the best means for us to achieve freedom, justice, and equality as a people. And now, yes, I believe that Black women are entitled to agency and privilege. Absolutely. I believe that Black women can be at the table in important rooms. But I tell you what, I want a Black man there to protect me. I want a Black man there to protect me. I do not want to be on my own. And I don't think that Black men should be on their own. We need each other because we come from each other. And I just wanted to share this perspective because I get concerned when we have Black women who are leading intellectuals, leading academics, And they're saying this and putting some of these ideas into the minds of our young women, when often our young women when our young women don't know, one, our history, and also don't know the nature of a man. And you could say, well, Nora, you're defending men. I'm defending us. I'm defending all of us. But I know that without knowing the nature of a thing, then we can be confused or offended by its behavior. And I'm not going to pet a snake because I know a snake's nature, right? So the same thing. I know that a man has a certain nature, and I can't be offended by how that nature is being expressed, except when it has been manipulated by someone who seeks to put that man and the woman in slavery, suffering, and death. And so we need a retraining, and we need this to happen together. And so in a way, as Black people, we need to start from scratch. You know, we must divest ourselves to the best of our ability to the training of, to the slave training that we had. What are you saying, and how would this look? Well, one way is to change our eating habits, right? We were not consumers of hog, of the pig, before we came to this continent. But we eat it. And if you talk to a Black person about not eating pork chops, not eating chitlins, not eating pork bacon, I mean, you can have a fight on your hands. And now you're saying this to a Black person because it's good for them, and they're highly offended, or they're mocking you because they've been trained to eat pig. Now, that's just one small example of the training and indoctrination that we have. And that contributes to physical illness. So think about the mental and the moral and the spiritual training that we have. Think about the habits that we've developed in other ways that lead to some of the mental health struggles that we have, some of the social struggles that we have, some of the spiritual struggles that we have and that we have with each other. We need a retraining. And I say that the movement that's best suited for us is a movement that does not have us detached from the whole. That detachment, that separatism, that segmenting off, those divisions, that's going to prolong our oppression. Now, I'm really interested in what you think about this. You may disagree, and I would like to hear your disagreement. I would like to hear your ideas. I think in some ways this is probably an ongoing conversation. And so I would like to hear from you, the audience. And maybe I was wrong in some areas, and I certainly would like to know that. I'm a student, and I'm learning, and I think that we all should be. And so I want to thank you for listening to this episode of the Nora Speaks podcast. You know, I'll say whatever strides that we're going to make in this journey for liberation, the barriers that we're going to break, we do not need to seek the permission of others to do it. We have to do it together and collectively, but we have to do it. I want to thank you again for listening to this episode of the Nora Speaks podcast. Until next time, stay in peace. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Nora Speaks podcast. Be on the lookout for a new episode coming at you fresh next week. And as always, if you want to learn more about me and the work that I do, visit my website, noramahammed.com. Or if you have a listener question, email me at info@noraspeaks.com. You can also follow the Nora Speaks podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Nora Speaks Podcast. I'll be sure to include links in the show notes. If this show has value to you, please subscribe, rate, and review, and share it with family and friends. And be sure to check out previous episodes. And remember, don't just join the movement, be the movement. Stay in peace.